Okay, happy midweek, everyone. It's a brief how-to video coming up, not too long, hopefully. Just want to give a brief introduction. I have a lot of these robot engines from CN that I keep doing, and I keep getting frustrated because the antennas that I build keep getting flattened out and breaking off because I have to keep bending them up too many times. So, heard of another guy using horsehair, but I don't own a horse. I guess you got to be lucky to own a horse. I don't own one. So I came up with this solution here, which is pretty cool, I think. And it doesn't matter how many times you move them or bump them or whatever, they're not going anywhere. So with that, I'll get into how I make these guys. Okay, we'll start with making the base. The first thing you need is a 1/2 mil styrene rod, and that's a square rod. And then I also follow that up with a capper, which is the thinnest plastic I can find. So I've taken that plastic sheet and I've cut a really thin strip, probably 0.75 to a millimeter wide, and I've glued it on top of the square rod, and then I painted that a light gray. So right now I'm having to use a gel-based CA because the plastic sheet that I chose is actually not it's not styrene, so it's not reacting well with the MEK. So yeah, once I've glued that on, now I have kind of like a half I-beam structure. You see the end there. So that forms the base of my antenna. So here comes the magic ingredient. I don't know about your house, but my kids keep throwing toothbrushes on the floor. And one day I looked at them and I thought, oh, those bristles are pretty good. And so I picked up a toothbrush that was on the floor, and the rest is history. So now I'm just drilling a pilot hole with the base there. Make sure you use the plastic side up, the sheet plastic side up. Drilling a pilot hole with a 0.3 mil drill, and then I'm going to follow that up with a 0.4 millimeter drill just to make it a bit wider and make it a little easier to stick the toothbrush bristle in the hole. Drilling these is pretty difficult, but you know, eventually you get the two holes spaced properly. I think I use 6.5 mil spacing between the two holes. Okay, now you can pick up one of the bristles with the tweezers there. Really hard to pick up. I'm using microscale crystal clear as a glue. Just dab a little bit on the end there, and I guess very carefully get it in a tiny little hole in the base, the antenna base. So right here you see me putting 2 in, and then got them both in. And I'll show you in a minute. There we go. They're both in. Okay, just make sure they're straight. So I'll just show you the bases I'm using. These are from Atlas. They're actually quite nice. They're etched metal. Just fold down the legs, and I painted them black, obviously. Okay, here's where they actually start showing up in the camera here. I'm painting the absolute base of the antenna black, and then I'm going to follow up with some silver. And I guess as I paint them, you'll start to be able to see these things. They're really, you know, they're invisible actually. They're transparent toothbrush bristles, so you can't really see them on film until you add some color. So here, just using some regular silver, and get the brush in the top there, and now you'll start to see them. There they go. So otherwise, you know, if you don't paint them, you won't be able to see them. So yeah, I'll just show you in a minute here what they look like. Paint all sides, get the paint all around. Paint the black first, because if you go too heavy on the black, you can cover it up with the silver, because all you really want is a tiny little base of black, just enough to show a dot. And there you go. So that's, and most importantly, don't cut the base until you're done. So it's really easy to use the whole base as a handle. Okay, now we're going to mount them on the stand here. So I'm using the same glue. Just doing a strip right down the middle. Looking at the prototype photos, this one was not mounted on the edge. It's mounted down the middle. So just use your tweezers, pick up what you just made there. Obviously I've cut it off from the main base that I created out of the 1/2 mil styrene square rod, and plug it on there. Make sure it's all nicely aligned, because you only get one chance to do this properly. And there we go, nice and aligned. And we'll just squish it down. So now you have one side made, you got to make the other one now. And you'll notice, will you notice? Yeah, on one side there, you see that little tab sticking down on the black there. You got to drill some holes next. Okay, we're just doing a dry fit on the GP38 here on the cab, just to make sure that where it's going to fit and where it's looking good. Okay, for this Atlas stand and for this Atlas engine that I'm using, go figure that the sunshade holds, the holes for the sunshade actually are a perfect alignment for the antenna stands as well. So I just used the sunshade holes as a guide, obviously drilling above in the black side, or black part, not the red part. And it didn't really matter which angle. I did drill perpendicular to the angled cab because the tabs on the antenna stands, you can bend them quite easily. They're just thin metal. So here I am just doing a test fit here, and then I'll follow up with some, I use CA in this case to glue the stands on permanently. So a little dab on each one of the tabs. And then I glued from the underside of the long edge of the antenna stand so that any kind of glue and mess would be underneath and you wouldn't see it. So here I am with the toothpick just dabbing it onto the two tabs, and then that's me going on the underside there, and just make sure it's out of sight so you don't see the unsightly mess with the CA, because if you mess this up you will see it and you'll have to scrape it off. So just press it down. It doesn't take long to hold, maybe a couple seconds, and now you've got your locomotive with two antenna stands and two antennas on top. And if the antennas are not straight, you can always adjust them a little bit, because the glue you used